Hello everyone, I'm Rishi Persad and welcome back to Racing Weekly, a podcast and YouTube show brought to you by oddschecker in association with Bet365. Top hat and tails ready. Royal Ascot just around the corner, so Steve Ryder is all set to go. And we welcome back to the show Andy Holding. Andy, as we were getting ready for the show, we were talking about Epsom and what we've seen recently. Obviously, Ascot is just days away. Such an exciting time.
It is, yeah. One of my favourite meetings of the year, if not the most favourite. Probably just slightly below Cheltenham. Being a national hunt man, I have to say loyal to that category. But yeah, it's just a brilliant betting week from a tipster's perspective. A pundit. I wouldn't say your year revolves around something like this, but you'd like to be thinking you've got to do fairly well. Come out of it as showing a profit. Because all the work that you've done beforehand on the figures, all the data that you've collated, if you get it wrong, you'll be scratching your head. TR race is a bit tricky because there's so many good horses around and a lot of them have just had the one run. The draw on the day obviously could play a huge factor in determining what wins those kind of races, but we know the form of all the handicappers pretty much, and obviously the older horse races are mouthwatering as well. There should be some great clashes, and we've got plenty of horses from the likes of Epsom as well, perhaps going there to sort of add into the mix, so it should be a fun week.
Yeah, nicely prefacing what we've got to come at Ascot. Steve, we're just talking about the fact that we were all at Epsom, extraordinary scenes on Derby Day, going, non-runners, etc. It's an exciting time for the sport, but not only just about racing.
Yeah, it's a brilliant time of the year. Epsom, I felt sorry for them because the work that they actually done behind the scenes really did work. Like I walked around the whole of Epsom on the Friday and it was a brilliant atmosphere, and it's kind of got ruined by the weather on the Saturday. If the one thing that I'd fix there are the screens to be able to watch, because on the Friday there's a big screen in between two makeshift areas to be able to see, which was fine. It was slightly obscured, but you could make your way across. That screen completely disappeared on the Saturday, and I went down to watch the Derby, and I actually had to get my phone out because at that stage it was raining, it was dull, you couldn't actually see the silks from a distance, and I had to look on my phone to see actually where the main protagonists were in the race, which if I'm on course, you shouldn't have to do that as a punter. So that's something that they have to fix.
I'm making a note of that. Feed that back to the committee. Yes, excellent point. I also thought the same, that because even when we were, I had to watch it on the ITV monitor because I couldn't see it on the big screen.
And it's not only Epsom that does it. Like sometimes I go to Newmarket on some of the lesser meetings. It's okay on Guineas Day and at the Craven, and you've got one by the finish line in the Premier bit and you've got one by the grandstand, and then suddenly you'll turn up to a random Thursday and the screen in Premier just won't be there.
Yeah.
I just think viewing is essential if you're going to spend the money actually to be able to go in, rather than having to watch it inside on a TV screen.
Okay, 100% with you on that. All right, well, we've talked about Ascot, we've talked about Epsom, so let's get into this week's racing recap. And we start with the Derby. Christmas Day, the winner, Benvenuto Cellini, the most talked about horse after the race. How do you deal with the outcome and the aftermath of one of the biggest and most important races in the calendar?
Yeah, I mean, there's better people in the game that can talk a lot more eloquently than I can about what happened at Epsom with Benvenuto Cellini, but as a hard-nosed punter who's been betting for sort of 40-odd years, I know, amazing, isn't it? But yeah, it's just a sad state of affairs, really.
In your opinion, was it the wrong decision or right decision?
Yeah, I don't think there's too many people out there that would think it was the right decision. Yeah. And the worst thing is that the BHA have actually tried to
hold the line,
tell us that we're wrong when we know our eyes are not deceiving us. And at the end of the day, yes, they're trying to protect a certain part of the betting fraternity, but in doing so, they're also alienating others, particularly the ones who suffered a Rule 4, for instance, who had to, pay the ultimate cost of having a big Rule 4 because the favourite obviously was deemed as a non-runner. The actual incident itself, it was very similar to quite a few other cases that have happened in the years, and nothing's been said. There was an incident last night as well, apparently, just to kind of add further fuel to the flames regards to James Owen horse that reared in the stalls. His chances of winning were compromised. by his own doing. And I think that's the thing. I think if a horse has done it by his own doing, if it's not sort of like an existential kind of thing, like the stalls don't open, or I don't know, for a tail gets stuck in a gate or something like that, something that he can't control, then I think punters are entitled to their money back. But when it comes to just, he had every chance, that was his own doing. It's just unfortunately one of those things, and there has to be a separation between a point where the horse didn't, his chances were compromised, or whether, like I say, it was just of his own doing. So I think that ruling definitely has to be altered, tweaked. It's a bit like the old VAR with handballs in the box and stuff like that. I think as a football fan nowadays, we watch football and we hate it when players turn their back and it hits their arm and referees give us a penalty because it's just slightly gone out the silhouette, their arms move, or they're just trying to block their face. It's absolutely crazy. As a football fan, you think, I can't believe I'm seeing this. And it's exactly the same as a racing fan. You're thinking, I can't believe that they're actually allowing this to happen. Yeah. So it definitely needs to be changed. And most punters nowadays will probably accept it. They take it on the chin. We're all big enough and ugly enough. We've been betting for a long enough time to take the odd bad result on the chin when you just think, I'm a horse reading the stalls. It didn't get away to a clean start. I mean, look at Cheltenham. They have so many false starts at Cheltenham. Horses are compromised by bad starts. They take those horrible standing starts. Nothing gets done there. Actually, I mean, to be honest, half the field sometimes in those races at Cheltenham have got less a chance of winning than Benvenuto Cellini. I mean, after he jumped, he was still, he was there or thereabouts, wasn't he? It wasn't as if he was tailed off. I mean, he's in a similar position to James J. Braddock and Maltese Cross, and they still managed to finish second and third. So the whole incident was just a bit of a mess. I think the BHA doubling down on it have, kind of made it even worse and infuriated punters even more, because I think we, like I say, I don't think we need to be mollycoddled too much nowadays.
Yeah, I think it's a dangerous precedent that they set. Steve, your thoughts? I mean, the wrong decision, I presume, as a punter, you'd accept, but also your thoughts on the race and the quality of Christmas Day's performance, which has been marked down significantly in comparison to other Derby winners. Yeah,
I mean, I won't say any more on the subject. I agree completely with Andy. You just want a bit of consistency as well from the BHA, and even yesterday at Yarmouth they showed that the consistency to that rule has not been followed. So the outlier was the Derby. So yeah, that was the wrong decision. Christmas Day was suited by the rain coming down. Was quite a big gamble. I think 20-1 into about 7-1 SP prior to the Rule 4. Won a maiden on heavy. Beat a boy named Susie who finished fourth in a French Derby in a Group 3 at Leopardstown at 2. Won the Ballysacks and then was on the wrong part of the track at York. That whole Dante Festival, you needed to be over on that far side. That's where Item and Action raced. Christmas Day came down the near side. Finished third, but managed to reverse that form. So, yeah, I don't think there's any fluke about this. I know a lot of the form from Derby Day, a lot of people are saying, you can just put it in the bin and let's not use those as form lines. I think it would be dangerous to do that with this Derby form. I thought Maltese Cross, all the way through on the previews, Tom Marquand said, I'm really worried about rain, I'm really worried about rain. So the fact that he ran so well on that ground, I think you could probably upgrade him. Confirmed form with Bay of Brilliance from Lingfield. I thought Bay of Brilliance might step forward past him with the benefit of that run, but I think they're two good colts going forward. And I mean, Aidan O'Brien's just a genius, isn't he? Yes, he can run 4 or 5 blue bloods in this, but this is his 50th British Classic, his 12th Derby win, and a 4th Derby win in a row. Just brilliant trainer.
Extraordinary. Okay, brief word on the Derby from you in terms of the quality. Do you think they've got it right in sort of saying that this is a below average in the last decade winner? I
just think that was the circumstance of the day. It obviously, it accentuates winning margins, and the horses run poorly as well because of what happened, in the build-up to the race with the rain. I'd probably upgrade Maltese Cross, as Steve's just said. It was a phenomenal run, really, from where he was. I think track position was very much key. I think those towards the back of the field were almost expecting a kind of thundering on performance where they went quick and they think, we'll come back. It didn't happen in the Derby. I thought James J. Braddock ran a nice race from where he was as well at the top of the hill. I think he was caught out by being ridden like Joseph's horse the day before. They probably thought, well, take your time, drop it out, like they did with Thundering On. But on the day, it turned out to be the wrong tactics. But he's run a Herculean race. I think the main beneficiaries from it going forward on a line through, you sort of with Maltese Crosses and And the winner are a boy named Susie, who ran really well in the French Derby, having got a bad draw. I think he was drawn 16 or something like that. He's run incredibly well to finish 4th behind Constitution River. So I think he's almost of serious interest going forward. Not sure where they're going to go with him yet. Coral Eclipse maybe, or maybe even Irish Derby, so they're talking. And the other one is Water to Wine, who beat Alderman very comfortably in a fast time figure. And Alderman was a big eye-catcher in the Derby, finishing 5th. So we'll get a chance to see Water to Wine and see what he can do when we get onto our Royal Ascot preview. But those would be the two, other than the Derby form, I think those two, a boy named Susie and Water to Wine, who have had their form lines boosted.
The other two Group 1s, I'll leave the Coronation Cup to you, but I'll get you to talk about Thundering On's performance in the Oaks, Steve. That was hugely impressive. I mean, if you look at the overall picture, I think she's established herself as the dominant force amongst the middle distance fillies of the classic generation. Yeah,
and it looked an open renewal pre-race, didn't it? Yeah. It doesn't in hindsight. Andy touched on about where the likes of Maltese Cross and James J. Braddock raced in the Derby, but the Friday was the same. You needed to be up with the pace. If you look through the winners that I did, Disputed Lead, Made All, Press Leaders, In Touch with Leader, Made All. And then you had Thundering On, settled last, comes through and wins an impressive start. I mean, Dylan Brown McMonagle is a fantastic jockey. This was the first Group 1 in the UK on only your 4th ride at Epsom. To have the confidence to do that in a British Classic was unbelievable. I thought it was a really impressive performance. Whether she proves best at 10 or best at 12 is going to be open to question.
She's clearly got a turn of foot, hasn't she?
Her dam won the Pretty Polly, whether they go that route, whether they go Irish Derby route, whether they go Irish Oaks route. There's so many options for her. But you'd imagine the Arc will be the long-term aim, as I'm sure it will be for Bay City Roller as well. Yeah,
and she, of course, is the only progeny of the dam who was Group 1 winner for Connections back in the day as well. And good shout on Sugar Island, who ran a mighty race after you put her up at 66 to 1.
Yeah, crossing the path, I got slightly excited.
Yeah.
And then suddenly you look across and go, maybe not.
Well, of course, as you have alluded to, Christmas Day and Thunder Run could end up in the Arc. And there they would likely meet Bay City Roller, who was hugely impressive. I'm not sure he's getting enough credit for the win, because a lot of the post-Coronation Cup focused on the disappointing run of Calandagan and obviously Convergent tailed off, and obviously Jan Bruegel and Lambourne all beaten out of sight in the end.
Yeah, I said beforehand when we were chatting off air, I did a piece on my column on, I think it was Monday, almost pushing forward that belief that what's this horse got to do to get any love. I think the fact that he constantly goes off at big prices and people underestimate him, I think there's a little bit of snobbery attached to that. And other horses, you know, like bigger names, more established names, more sexier names, if you like, are kind of hard to dislodge out of punter's psyche. You know, your Calandagans, your Jan Brugels, etc. But on soft ground, as we saw, not only at Epsom, when he thrashed them, but in Munich as well last year, that was the precursor to perhaps what might lie ahead for this horse. Having done quite a lot of work with George Scott over the years, he's always maintained his belief that this horse is a genuine Grade 1 horse. Having lots of conversations with him, we've always been scratching our head. How on earth is this horse 20 to 1? We're like, seriously? And yes, the conditions did play a huge factor. You know, winning by 10 lengths is unprecedented. So obviously, there's clearly quite a lot of forces at play there. But if he does get those conditions in the Arc, then who's to say that he couldn't do not necessarily something similar, but he's definitely going to outrun his current odds. I mean, obviously, Daryz is the main player in that division at the moment. See how his season pans out. You've got the 3-year-olds coming through, your Constitution Rivers, yet he's yet unproven over a mile and a half, and he might stay over a mile and a quarter if he wins the Eclipse, let's say. Thundering On, you know, she's definitely a name to conjure with. But then if you get into the likes of your Mini Hawks and a few others, I mean, he's already thrashed Mini Hawk in her own backyard at the Curragh on ground that wouldn't have suited him. And yet Mini Hawk is still 14 to 1, and yet this horse is 20 to 1. So I still think, actually, even allowing for the fact that there's more to come from him, he's still, you know, almost a bit of a forgotten horse. But I don't think he will be come the first week in October.
Well, for the Arc, Bet365 have Daryz as a 3-1 favourite. Thundering On 7s, Constitution River 10s. As Andy says, Mini Hawk 14s, Diamond Necklace 16s, Bay City Roller 20s. And he's the same price as Hawk Mountain Maltese Cross. So interesting. Last word on Epsom from either of you. Anything more to say on that? Or do you want to wrap it up now and let's move on? Happy?
I think so, yeah. I don't think there's any other standout performances. No.
Salal was obviously really
Salal
good.
was very good, and he's going to obviously step up into
Perfect, yeah.
The rating of his performance matched Christmas Days in the Derby, according to the number bods, but that's to be discussed at another time, because that has been this week's racing recap. Now, before we get into our Royal Ascot preview, just to let you know that our sponsor Bet365 have a best odds guaranteed offer. It's available on every single UK and Irish race from 8 a.m. on the day of the race. If you take a price and the SP is bigger, Bet365 will pay you at the bigger odds, and full T's and C's can be found on the website. And so to Royal Ascot we go. And the start of the meeting with a cracker in the Queen Anne, for which Notable Speech is a 6-4 favourite to do better than he did last year. Opera Ballo, his stable companion, 3-1. More Thunder, 9-2. Docklands, 5-1. Zeus Olympios, 7s and 12s bar with Bet365. Andy, I'll let you have a first crack at this. Who wins?
I'd want to get against the front two in the market here. Godolphin, in inverted commas, have had a tremendous record in this race, most notably Sybin Sarab further down the line. But Charlie Appleby's I don't think he's yet to crack the code. And he's had 1 or 2 high-profile goes at this. It's notwithstanding that Notable Speech is an incredibly good racehorse. I mean, I fancied him in the Lockinge, and he duly made up for that unlucky run the time before in America when he was a very eye-catching second. He should have probably won that day. And everything went in his favour at Newbury. They went a good, strong gallop. He settled relatively well, and he showed that sparkling turn of foot that we know he's got. But Ascot is a totally different ball game. And I like backing Ascot horses at Ascot, particularly over that stiff mile. They might not be the best horses in the race, but you just need a totally different horse to win at Ascot. Horses with a longer stride length, horses that gallop rather than quicken. And I think the terrain definitely nullifies the quickener sometimes. I'm not sure how this race is going to be set up for Notable Speech, or particularly Opera Ballo. I'd have a serious reservations about Opera Ballo around this track. I've noticed that potentially Godolphin have got a bit of a foot soldier in there as well. They've got a horse that might make the running for them. But I do think Docklands and More Thunder are the two I'd be concentrating on here. They're 2 Ascot specialists. More Thunder I thought was a massive eye-catcher behind Notable Speech first time out, but that was a perfect prep for the Queen Anne. The Lockinge is usually the best form guide, but because More Thunder has run at Ascot before and he's got a run style that suits Ascot, I think he'll turn the form around with Notable Speech, and there's a lot of good judges that think that'll be the case as well. But you can't rule out Docklands. I thought he won the race fair and square last year. He showed a good turn of foot, good tenacity in the finish, and he's just so tough. His form at Ascot is second to none. He's never been out the frame. He's just the kind of horse I love to back in a race like this. There should be 7, 8, 9 runners on the day. If you can get in and around the 6-7-1 mark on the day for him, he's a Group 1 winner. He's won the race before. He's got an amazing track record. Had perfect prep last time out, as we know Harry Eustace loves Royal Ascot as well. So for me, he's the pick of the two. I probably would go with him each way, but if you wanted to perm the other two, you could either back More Thunder or Docklands win only. Okay. So I think one of those two will win.
Very cogent case for both horses. Steve?
I'm in complete agreement around both horses, and for the negatives around the Godolphin pair, just the fact that that straight mile at Ascot, you do get specialists there. Notable Speech has been there twice, 7th of 8th when sent off 6-4 for the St James's Palace, and then 4th of 10 last year when only 4-1. He had the benefit of that run in America prior to More Thunder. More Thunder was making his first run for 223 days, so it's more of a stepping stone. That was at a time when Charlie Appleby's were a bit quiet, but Notable Speech was really well fancied and really well backed on that day for the Lockinge, and I imagine More Thunder's probably going to step more forward than what Notable Speech was. So yeah, nothing more to add.
Okay, I'm still sticking with Snow. I've watched the Lockinge back about 6 or 7 times, and I see the case for More Thunder and going back to Ascot, but Notable Speech won he was commanding his win over More Thunder. So I'm just thinking, and also last year when he went to the Queen Anne, the St James's Palace, he was disappointing, but that was off the back of all those quick runs. When he went to the Queen Anne last year, it was off the back of a dull run in the Lockinge, and he produced a very similar run in the Queen Anne.
Yep.
So I'm not sure when he's gone to Ascot the 2 times they've been.
There's been mitigating circumstances.
Yeah, there've been enough there, but he's obviously favourite. So at the prices, I can understand why people will look for an alternative. The King Charles Stakes, or the King Charles III Stakes, another Group 1 race on the opening day. Overpass, 5-2 favourite for the Aussies. Night Raider, 6-1. Rayevka, 6-1. American Affair, last year's winner, now 8s. As Fura, 10s. Mission Central, 10s. Big Mojo, 16s. 25s bar those. Those prices with Bet365. Steve, who do you like here?
Yeah, I'm not going to claim to follow Australian sprinters, so Overpass I can kind of let win if he ended up a superstar. But 7-year-old gelding, apparently they're only coming to this race because they don't think they can beat Jodie Starr over further later on in the week, which doesn't fill me with a huge amount of confidence at the prices. I'm with Night Raider. I've been really impressed with him on both of his starts so far this year. 2 from 2 this year, 2 from 2 since being gelded. He's now won 6 times in his career. His running style for the previous 5, in touch with leaders, made all, led at a fast pace, made all, until his win in the Temple Stakes when he was slowly away, proved that he can settle off a pace, and then came through. And I thought it was really cosy length winner over American Affair that day. A lot of people will look at his Ascot record, last of 19 in the Jersey, but that was off the back of trying to be settled into a Guineas horse that year. 12th in this race last year, but that was the first time over 5 furlongs. He didn't win any of his 7 starts last year either. He was just a completely different horse after that gelding operation. The fact that I think it's going to be a relatively big field, depending on where they race and where they're drawn, the fact that he doesn't have to make the running now, I think is going to be a huge benefit to him. And if I like him, then I have to like my old friend Rumstar as an each-way bet at a bigger price. He was only beaten half a length in that Palace House Stakes. The form of that has obviously been boosted by Night Raider. And if you look back at the race last year, he was just drawn on the wrong side. All of the horses in the high stalls dominated. He was drawn 5 and was just simply on the wrong side of the track. So, yeah, 2 for me. I'd probably back Night Raider win only, to be honest, at the prices, now that he's getting into around 6-1. But, yeah, Rumstar is a safer each way.
OK. I like the fact that the Aussies are having a go with this horse in this race. To avoid Jolly Star, for the conversation about Jolly Star later on. The only thing I'd say about this horse coming for this race, I think it's the first time he's running over the flat 5. He's run over 5.5 furlongs a few times since 2021. But also looking at his run style, he's very quick away from the gates, so he could be part of the pace early on to make it quite an interesting race, which would help a horse that I like, an American Affair, for example, who did too much too soon last time out. It's such an exciting way, the build-up to the race in terms of how it's all going to run. And Steve said with Night Raider, he's made all the running and then all of a sudden he misses the kicker at Haydock and bolts up. So yeah, how do you see it?
Yeah, I think you've touched upon various points that I was going to raise. Night Raider seems a better horse now he's been switched off and he has missed a kick. I think you could probably draw a line there for through his run in last year's race when he's probably a little bit keen and a bit fresh over towards that far side. He's now got a Royal Ascot running style and an Ascot running style that should be suited to coming through off the speed. There is going to be loads of pace on here. Obviously, you've touched upon the Aussie horse, Overpass likes to be up there, and so does Jackajaro and Frost at Dawn. So you need to look at the pace map. You need to see where these horses are drawn before making your final decision. But ultimately, I think me and you and Rishi are on the same horse here, American Affair. He just ticks all the boxes I look for. Docklands in the first, C&D form, won this race last year. And he looks as though he's had a perfect preparation, needed to run first time out. And at Haydock, unlike how Night Raider's often ridden and how American Affair's often ridden, he did the absolute complete opposite. He literally tanked his way through the first 2 or 3 furlongs, more to the point he was in front at the furlong pole. And then it was a grind on that ground, that rain softened ground. The ground obviously caused 1 or 2 issues that ultimately cost him. So I think if you're just looking at that pure form of how a Night Raider beats American Affair, I think you'd be sadly mistaken, because I'd imagine this time he'll be able to settle in behind a fast pace, and that's the key. This horse needs to be switched off and brought with a run. So he'll have more energy left at the back end of his race than he did at Haydock. So I see him, certainly where a Night Raider finishes, being bang there, if not turning around the form completely. So I think you've got to include American Affair into whatever permutations you might have if he gets on the right side of the draw. I think he's a cracking each way bet. If they bet 4 or 5 place on the day, which they're likely to, because we could get almost 20 runners in this by the looks of it. So he'd be my number one choice. And going back to that Haydock race, I put up a horse on the day, Get Ready to Rumble, and I was a little bit fearful that he was drawing his stall 1. And as it panned out, that was absolutely no good to him. He was right out on the wing all the way through the race, saw no cover whatsoever. You can scratch a line through that. But previously to that, he'd finished just behind Mission Command at Nace, and he should have beaten Mission Command. Mission Command's won again since, and Mission Command's around about a 8-1 shot to win this.
Mission Central, sorry.
Mission Central, beg your pardon. Mission Command, that's an ex-George Scott horse,
again,
racing about 50.
Victorious horses.
Yeah, sorry about that. And if he gets on the right side of the draw, he's got Ascot form, and I think he'll run a lot better than he did in the Temple Stakes. And he's 66 to 1. He's just one to have a play around. He could be 100 to 1, 4 or 5 places on the day. But American Affair is my number one choice.
Obviously, I agree entirely with you about American Affair. Who also, the other encouraging thing is having had that long period of time off, there was nothing serious for why he spent time off the track. It was just little issues, and they just, right, okay, let's just down tools and bring him back next year. So at least you've got none of those things to worry about, and it's just getting him right for the race. And it looks as if the prep's gone, ideally. And with that in mind, I'm just going to, like you, find another one to throw in at a big price, and that'll be Frost at Dawn, who she hasn't run well this season so far, but she does have the tendency to produce a really big performance when you least expect it, as she did last year when she was only just behind American Affair. Ascot form. And she's, straight tracks and just bombing it on quick ground, as she has done in Dubai in years, but at York, at Newmarket, and she's versatile, and she's 50 to 1. So that was an alternative to American Affair for me in the King Charles. What a first day, because not only do we have that and the Queen Anne, we've also got the St James's Palace. Now, Bo Echo, unbeaten Bo Echo, 5 to 6 favourite, bet 365. Stade 11 to 4. Talk of New York 4 to 1. Raif, the French Guineas winner, is 10s, and then 14 to 1 bar those. Lots of chat about Bo Echo. Other horses now going past Bo Echo because he's only a little chap. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I don't buy into that. I mean, the one thing you could say if you're looking to put a fork into his Guineas run is that he was tuned up for the day. He'd had loads of racecourse gallops. The word on the street was Gustard, I'd say, had an interrupted preparation, but as we saw with Precise, it wasn't a be-all and end-all for Aidan. He always had this as a backdrop with Gustard, and he always had the Irish 2,000 guineas on his back door as a backup. So they'd probably come away from the race, Ballydoyle, thought, fair enough, we got beat on the day, but there'll be other opportunities. Everyone was quite right to get giddy over Bo Echo. The time figure that we had for it, and we've been compiling time figures now for 10, 15 years, that was, bar Frankel, this was the best one. So the race is as good as what everyone says. So it looks, therefore, a straight match between the two. I will probably use Gustard, and this is my betting hat on here, with my each-way thievery hat on as well at the same time, basically banker him and put in loads of other horses as well throughout the course of the meeting in these kind of like each-way betting races, like your first race with 8 and 9 runners currently, with the likes of Docklands. We'll talk about 1 or 2 others later on. We know the Prince of Wales and the Gold Cup and all that, where you can get some nice each-way money rolling on, because I think Gustard is almost certain to be in the frame. He's got Ascot form. He's never been out the first 2 in his life. He hasn't got a massive amount to find anyway with Bo Echo, just based on their Newmarket run, and we don't know the levels of fitness going into that. We know that Bo Echo was trying for his life for that, and that was his day. He might well do it again, and he might well uphold the form, but Gustard's going to finish wherever Bo Echo finishes. He's going to be in the frame. So, yeah, that'll do for me. I think Gustard is a real pro each-way bet.
Excellent.
Or one, just like I say, to put in some real good each-way multiples.
All right, well, he's 11 to 4 second choice. Who is your selection?
Yeah, I like Stade as well.
Okay.
Watchers of this already know that I'm going to be taking on Bo Echo. Like Andy said, just trained to the minute. I've got nothing against the horse, but I just think the others might well progress past him. Nothing to do with his size, just the fact that we did see how tuned for the minute he was for the 2,000 guineas, and that day everything went right. He was settled in rear. he got a clearer way through where Stard was obviously out in front doing his own business. I think Puerto Rico is going to be really interested in here because he's going to be ridden from the front like he normally is. That's then going to mean tactically this is going to be fascinating, and you can imagine Stard's going to be right on his shoulder, and that will give Ryan first go, and hopefully will then be able to dictate from then on. If you look at the others, Talk of New York, Bo Echo, Raif, they're normally all ridden off the pace, and it could get quite messy with regards to the draw. I'm assuming no one will want stall 1 and getting trapped against that rail coming round the bend. So tactically, this is going to be a really fascinating race. I went through loads of kind of Guineas form into the St James's Palace Stakes. So you had Frankel, Dawn Approach, Glen Eagles, Galileo Gold and Caribus all go from the 2,000 Guineas at Newmarket and then ended up winning this. But Dawn Approach came via the Derby. Glen Eagles won the Irish 2,000 Guineas. Galileo Gold finished second in the Irish 2,000 Guineas. So it's only actually been Frankel and Caribus that have come straight to this. Frankel nearly got beaten and was a complete superstar. Caribus, if you look back at that St James's Palace, it was a terrible race.
Maltrum should have won.
So if you then look at it, actually the Irish 2,000 Guineas has a really good record in those horses reversing forms. You had Kingman, second at Newmarket, won the Irish 2,000 Guineas, came here. Rosallion, placed at Newmarket, won the Irish 2,000 Guineas, won this. Field of Gold, second at Newmarket, won the Irish 2,000 Guineas and came here to win this. I just think that extra run might then bring Stard forward because of it. 10 of the previous 12 winners had had 2 runs prior to this race. And I just think Bo Echo might well be caught out of the fact that he's coming straight from the 2,000 Guineas into this. He's obviously a brilliant horse, but I just think at the prices I'll be with Stard.
Okay, good numbers on that research. Jim, this is one race that I'm not that keen to have a bet in because I so respect Bo Echo's unbeaten record and his horse I liked a lot as a 2-year-old. And I know that what you're saying about Stard and the fitness and he's going to come forward. But I do think if Bo Echo wasn't in the race, you've got a horse beating the rest of the Guineas field by miles. And imagine Bo Echo hadn't run and Stard had won the Guineas by that, you'd be turning around going, well, he will come on for this. And you'd be, what, really? Come on for this? Having just done that to that 2,000 Guineas field. I don't have a very strong view on it. I just think it's a great race. I might throw some money at Talk of New York because I just don't know how good he is.
He's very good on the clock at Sandown.
He's got some
the
great
time
numbers.
figures. Yeah, he's actually slightly ahead, but bizarrely, based on that time figure at Sandown. Then the Guineas, the Guineas was amazing, but what we've got is of Talk of New York. He's right up there.
And he's becoming more mature in his racing. So
there you go. You got a nice each way bet to nothing there. You've talked yourself into it. 5-1 Talk of New York. That's it. Money back.
Oh,
surely.
the game's on again.
There you go.
The Prince of Wales' stakes on Wednesday. That's the big race. And what a cracker this is as well. Daryz is the 5-4 favourite with Bet365. Ombudsman 11-8. Al Macam 6-1. Mini Hawk 10s, Kalpana 16s. Not entirely certain of what else will be in the race, but just the clash between Daryz, Ombudsman, and if Al Macam lines up as well, include him in the mix. How do you see this?
This is a brilliant race, isn't it?
Tactics is going to be fascinating.
It is, and Godolphin have got Devil's Advocate in there, haven't they? Who I imagine is going to then be used to make the run-in for Ombudsman because he's seen to best effect off a strong pace. We saw that at York in the Juddmonte. We saw that he kind of got stopped in his run in this race last year and still managed to win. And then it went kind of wrong in the Eclipse afterwards when Delacroix ended up being able to mug him late. So tactically, this is going to be really interesting. I've been really impressed with what Daryz has done this year. From be able to win the Arc over 1.5 miles to then drop down in trip to do what he did. I know that Dispahan wasn't a particularly strong field, but to be able to do that over 1.1 miles was just a ridiculous performance. But I don't think there's a horse in here with a better turn of foot than Ombudsman. And the fact that they've got a pacemaker in there might mean that they can dictate it rather than Ballydoyle being able to do the tactics. They got it wrong last year, didn't they? Tactics-wise, Ballydoyle. But Mini Hawk's going to want this to be a strong pace, but I think that will suit Ombudsman at the same time. I think Al Macam, if he's ridden like he was in the Tats Gold Cup, forward, sat second or third, he'll probably get first run. But that's what Ombudsman wants, doesn't he? He wants someone to be able to chase down. He did what he couldn't do last year and win the Brigadier Gerard under a penalty in his reappearance. If you look at figures, I know Al Macam's form, obviously, from that Tats Gold Cup has been boosted by Bay City Roller. On official ratings, he's still got £6 to find. with Ombudsman and has nearly 2 lengths to find on the Champion Stakes form from last year. So I'm willing to just kind of ignore Daryz, and I know that sounds a bit stupid with the 5-4 favourite. I know he's the different horse than what he was from York last year, but I'm happy to kind of just leave him. And other than him, I think, well, even with him in the race, I think Ombudsman's got the best turn of foot, and I'm just hoping that it's run to suit.
What do you think, Andy?
So difficult to split these two. Goodness me. I mean, Daryz just blew your eyes away last time out when he won in France. He's back in sectionals were unbelievable. I went on French Gallop and looked at them. I think it was 32 and change, and nothing on that card got anywhere near that. Unfortunately, we don't keep overall French figures, so he's a difficult one to peg in relation to Ombudsman and Almacan, because obviously we just work on numbers ratings based on what they've done against the par. So because of that, he's difficult to advocate at a very short price, but I think he might end up out of the two being the better horse of the two. But that said, Ombudsman has got the track form. I don't want to contradict myself, but track form is absolutely golden here at Ascot. So he has got that in his favour. Daryz has yet to run at Ascot. But again, I'm just going to put my punting hat on here. The front two is so difficult to split, but surely Almacan will be in the 3. I can't see him not finishing 3rd. Mini Hawk, he slaughtered her at Curragh. There was no excuses for Mini Hawk. Kalpana, if she comes here, I'm not sure, but she's a mile and a half horse, surely. And then you're talking like your Dancing Geminis and the Cedar Fires, and that they wouldn't be good enough. But Almacan's performance at the Curragh, I went over with George Scott that day, and we looked at him in the pre-parade ring, and we watched him go down the post, and basically roller come their canter, and you think, oh, he's going to win here, and Almacan just went again, and he was plenty keen enough in the early stages. He chased the unnecessarily hot speed, and yet he still found a good turn of foot. And beforehand as well, I've never seen a horse, I've been racing for years, that looked as well as him. He is an unbelievable specimen, Almacan. If you're going to Royal Ascot, I urge you to go to the pre-parade or the parade and look at Almacan.
Well, that's the other thing. Ombudsman has grown and filled into such a majestic, huge beast as well. This is that not just obviously what they can do on it. They look like
they do.
They're mature. They're heavyweight boxers. Yeah. They're ready to go.
Well, the middleweights, aren't they, really?
Well, yes. Middleweights.
Yes. Middleweight boxers. They are amazing. These 3 horses, honestly, they're definitely worth going just to see these 3 on the Wednesday. And
I agree with you. There's 3. I know that everyone's making it Daryz and Ombudsman, but Almacan was a Group 1 winner, and he's not far behind these 2.
No, and I think he's improved. On that run in the Tats, he's definitely improved from last year to this. So, and he hasn't got a huge amount to farm with Ombudsman. And like I say, it's all about prices for me. I've got 3 horses I'm just going to be putting into each way malters. Almacan at 7-1, Gestard at 3-1, and Docklands at 7-1. That's a nice solid each way treble on 3 Ascot horses who've been trained to the minute, coming here off back of good runs. Yeah, I'll be tearing my hair out if I don't get paid out on that each way treble.
Okay.
And I haven't got to back a winner.
No, absolutely.
It's a draw. No pressure.
I'm going to be on the side of Ombudsman. I just think when you look through the last 2 seasons, obviously he gave weight away to Almacan in the Brigadier Gerard, came out the best horse in the race. In the Eclipse, one of his defeats last season, should have won that. Tactically, obviously, I think William Buick got where he was positioned. He ended up having to go forward, and it left him exposed in the end of the race. And Delacroix ran past him. And then in the Champion Stakes, he was right at the back, made up his ground, sat on Calandagan's tail in the straight, and then Calandagan just in the midst of the special spell that Calandagan was having. So he is just rock solid, top class, Ascot, mile and a quarter, defending his crown. Just that's what tips it in this game. But again, Daryz and Almacan are 2 horses you hugely respect. So let's talk about the heavyweights, I presume, if we're going by Andy's analogy. And the Gold Cup at Ascot, for which Scandinavia is the 5-4 favourite, Rahib 4-1, Trawlerman 6s, Caballo de Mar 8s, Sweet William 8s, and then 20s bar those with Bet365. Scandinavia beaten behind Karmas and Rahib in the Queen's Vase last year, but this year he's favoured for the Gold Cup with those 2 horses, and Karmas is 20-1 here.
Yeah, no cheap pieces that day though in the Queen's Vase.
Yeah, and did run on.
Unbeaten since the application of those cheap pieces. Won the Goodwood Cup, obviously against his elders. won the St Ledger. I know Rahib caught the eye that day, was closing at the finish. But if you ask me which out of the two of those is going to stay on better at the finish, I think it's going to be Scandinavia. But given the standard Aidan O'Brien prep for this, vintage crop, Saddleberg onto this, I know you can look at the bare form of that and go, oh, well, it's beaten 100 rated horses by half a length. But I think he's your grinder. If you ask me which is going to stay that 2.5 miles, which is a completely different trip to what these have been running over, I think it will be Scandinavia. Rahib was a good winner of the Yorkshire Cup on his reappearance, but that was a slowly run race. Amalok was leading that day, didn't really want to be in front, and I thought he won it more with a turn of foot than what he did stamina that day. It's going to be interesting to see what Trawlerman does in this race, because initially he wasn't going to get there. Now it seems more optimistic that he is. He's then going to be wearing these weird goggles.
I was going to, if I had sunglasses, I'd have just taken these off and put them on.
So he's had an eye issue rather than a physical issue, which makes me more happy fitness-wise, the fact that he's going to be in this race. So they'll probably ride him like they normally do from the front and make it a proper test of stamina, which will suit Scandinavia. But he's going to have these goggles on for the parade ring down to the start and then have to take them off for the race. So you're going to get some unbelievable footage on ITV being able to talk about this horse walking around the parade ring in goggles. But I think he's going to be key to this race, because if he runs like he did last year and try and break them one by one, I think there's one horse that's going to be staying on well at the finish, and I think that's going to be Scandinavia.
All right, Scandinavia to win. What are your thoughts, Andy?
Surprise, surprise. I'm staying loyal to Team Scott Victorious here with Cabala de Mar. He's honestly, George has done remarkably well with Basie Tirola, but he is pure class. He's always been class from the word go. This horse has had to work his way through the ranks, gain everyone's adulation, if you like. I mean, it's quite remarkable. The Rags to Riches story. He won a handicap off Marcus 67 only a couple of years ago, and now he's a genuine Group 1 horse, multiple Group 1 winner, dare I say. The thing is with Cabala, we know he stays. You know, the Cadran, okay, he didn't beat a brilliant field, in all fairness. It was like a waning Coltrane, etc., and one or two other horses who you could put into the iffy category. But he proved that was no fluke when winning last time out, and it was a stellar field. You could argue that Alriff was a bit unlucky, he was ridden a little bit too far at his ground, what have you. But that trip was plenty short enough for Caballo, and it was a dash for the line more than anything else. And he still won, and he showed great determination. That's the key with Cabala de Mar. He will just literally run until he drops. And we're quite hopeful that Trawlerman will run, because at least with Trawlerman in the field, we know we're going to get a strong pace. Caballo likes to sit on the shoulder of whatever leads. So he's going to get first run coming into the home straight, and he will just keep galloping. So if Scandinavian Rahib are good enough, hardy enough, and they've got enough stamina, then fair play. But again, I do see Caballo being one that's underestimated, and his current odds of 8 to 1. I'll be surprised if there's 3 better than him on the day. And he ran well first time out in the Cigar as well, when Sweet William had the sort of benefit of the weight differential, etc., and it was 2 miles, and Caballo was definitely a better horse over further. So I'd like to think that he'd turn around the form with him. So yeah. Scandinavia's just too short. Rahib is improving over beyond 2 miles, but Caballo isn't, and he's 8 to 1. So hopefully George Scott can have another Group 1 winner.
What a spell this is for George Scott. Would you include Caballo in your each way multiple?
Why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
Well, it's going well so
isn't
far.
It? Yeah,
it's going well so far.
I've got 3, but I think out of the 4, if you like, he's the one that. I'd say you'd be less certain than would be in the first 3, because he should be really. But yeah, I hadn't contemplated putting him in, because I'm happy. I was happy with the other 3, but it could even be a 4 now.
I'm going to talk you in. I feel like I've talked you into this.
I'm going for an each way yanking. I'll tell you what, I'll have my each way treble, and then I'll perm an each way yanking and put Cabello in.
Okay.
There you go.
I like Scandinavia.
I think he'll drift. I think you'll get bigger than 5.
Because there are good alternatives.
It wouldn't surprise me on the day if you get nearer to 2 to 1.
Yeah.
I did find the run of Ledestria eye-catching in the Savile. He travels so well. almost like this was, let's just have a look. And I thought he might have a few different entries.
Queen Alexandra on the Saturday.
Is he only at the moment, as of yesterday, or I think obviously he's just only got that one entry. I don't know what the plan is for him, but
well, he's got mile 7 form, hasn't he? In his native land.
But he travelled so well, didn't he? In that race?
After that, you think, he's having a prep for Royal Ascot off that run. He wasn't overly punished, was he, in that race at Leopardstown? He definitely caught the eye. So it'll be interesting to see where he does go.
Willie Mullins' horse going to Royal Ascot over a staying trip. It's enough. 33-1 for the Gold Cup if he does take his chance. Let's talk about the Commonwealth Cup, which takes place on Friday for the 3-year-olds. Venetian Sun 6-4 favourite with Bet365. Albert Einstein 6-1. Division 12s. Koppel 14s. Havana Anna 14s. Sabre Strike. I think William Haggis said he's going for the jersey now.
Definitely goes for the jersey, yeah.
Song of the Clyde 16s. True Love 16s. Wise Approach 16s. Who wins this, Andy?
I think we have got the right favourite here. I've looked to get against others, or if you like, I wouldn't be prepared to bet any of those other ones that we've talked about. Your Locks and Notable Speech, your Scandinavias, your Daryz's and Ombudsman. They're just not my kind of bets.
Yeah.
I would never look at Royal Ascot and thinking, I'm going to lump on this 6-4 shot. I think that's a one-way ticket to the poorhouse. Yeah. I think there's so many other options you can look at. Place-only markets, 4 places on the day, and just using my sort of way I look at a race like this. Venetian Sun is obviously the benchmark, but I do think wherever obviously she finishes, if she does win, then Division will be bang there. I didn't think he was quite at his best at Haydock. I mean, I don't think he'll turn the form around, don't get me wrong.
He saw more daylight than her.
He did. He wasn't quite that ride that he got at Ascot. I think he's more of an Ascot horse. Not to say, the favourite isn't, because obviously she won the Albany. But I think Ascot will suit his run style better than the flat track of Haydock, where he's asked to quicken and what have you. But I do think he's more of a stayer. And I think this stiffer test will suit him. He was unlucky in the race behind Koppel.
At
Ascot, when he was a massive eye catcher, and obviously that was the reason why everyone fancied him for the Haydock race off the back of that. But he hasn't become a bad horse overnight. He's finished behind 2 of the main protagonists. He's got Ascot form, and he's 20-1. Well, that's the key, isn't it? You're looking at him and thinking, well, why is he 20-1? There's so many other names ahead of him that might not even run. The likes of Sabre Strike, True Love. I think come the day, he's going to be more around about a 10-1 shot. So, again, another one that you could easily now... I know there's only 3 places at the moment. On the day, there'll be probably 4 and 5. So you are watering down your options with regards to a place-only bet. But he would be the one I'd be looking at right here, right now, at the price. You think, I can back him at 20s, and I know I'm on a value bet.
OK. Division in the Commonwealth Cup for Andy. What about you, Steve?
Yeah, I didn't think this was the strongest of races, if I'm being honest. We've looked at some of them, and you've gone, oh my God, this can win, this can win, this can win. And I think she's about the right price, Venetian Sun, to be honest. 4 from 4 over 6 furlongs. Beat Division comfortably in that Sandy Lane last time. I actually thought Division got first run on her, and if he was going to beat her, that would have been the way to do it. But Clifford Lee just pulls her out, and away she goes. And it's interesting because going from a Guineas dropping down to 6 furlongs, she was still keen. She's still learning what she's doing at this trip as a sprinter. And yeah, as Andy touched on, has Ascot form, won the Albany last year in impressive style. And yeah, I thought she was fairly bomb-proof, to be honest. OK. Venetian Sun for Steve. I'm going to be either very stupid or very clever.
True Love? You're trying to predict True Love
from
here?
No.
Okay.
But I can see that if
I would have liked it.
If Precise, they split them up and she goes for the race, then wow. But I'm starting to like Albert Einstein.
Do you think Ryder will ride him over Charles Darwin?
Yes,
he will. Yeah, sure.
I think he will ride him. Given the reputation of the horse and what Aidan said about him, I can't imagine that Ryan would ride anything else.
On case of the defence then.
So I watched the race back at... Actually, I like Song of the Clyde as well. So those are the 2 horses that I'll be playing in the race. Song of the Clyde, I think, is underestimated because I think he's a really smart horse. He travels very, very well. If there was a strong pace and he could get a lead, and bearing in mind he made the run on his side of the track at Newbury, I'd be very keen on him at 16-1. Albert Einstein is definitely improving with every start. Without question, he's improving. And then I watched back the race at Newbury and I've started to think, was he on the right part of the track at Newbury or not? And did he just get beaten by a horse who raced on the better part of the track at Newbury? And then I looked through all the other races on the day at Newbury on the straight track, and it all happened on the stand side. In fact, to the point where all the runners later in the day all raced on the stand side, nothing raced in the middle or the far side.
Is it the day Linwood won the Spring Cup?
Linwood, and then there was a horse of Ed Walker's that made all the running on the near side. Classic came home on the near side.
That's right.
So they all ended up coming on the stand side. And he actually had his side of the field stretched, and he looked impressive to the furlong pole. And then suddenly, obviously, Song of the Clyde, who'd raced away from the rest of the other three, he's come home and just beaten him. Aidan O'Brien is obviously not 100% right about all his horses, but I can't believe he'll throw his reputation behind a horse like Albert Einstein, repeatedly going, this horse is something special. And I'd rather take a chance with Albert Einstein delivering now at 6-1 than Venetian Sun at 6-4, because I still think that he has got better with every run, and I have had a little bit on Song of the Clyde, and I'm starting to think I'll back Albert Einstein as well. So those are my Commonwealth Cup thoughts. So I could look like an idiot. Oh, sorry, even more of an idiot. Because I know there'll be even people at my own house say this, so don't worry about it. The Coronation Stakes, also on the same note, obviously we mentioned True Love, who's in the Commonwealth Cup. But Precise is the 4-5 favourite for the Coronation Stakes. True Love is 3-1. Abashiri 8-1. The Prettiest Star, Tulane 12s and 16s, bar those. I mean, this looks a fairly straightforward task for Precise, or am I being too simplistic?
No, this does look penalty kick material, unless she gets trouble in running. The turn of foot she showed at the Curragh was quite astonishing, wasn't it? She stuck out on the outside, not necessarily the place to be at the Curragh. You usually want to be over towards that far rail, talking about track position. Most of the runners that day won from sort of just being over towards that far rail, and she came swooping down the outside. There's plenty of horses that tried that on the day and couldn't achieve it. Jancis was one, for instance, who was very well fancied for the City of Memphis race. City of Memphis raced handy and quickened over on that far side, and Jancis was just stranded down the middle and couldn't make any ground up. So she basically swam against the tide and still won. Yeah. And she beat True Love fairly readily on the day. I don't really see any reason why there should be a turn of form. Stranger things have happened, and you say no, Brian. So you never say never. But again, I do think the Prettiest Star is a viable each way alternative. Around about 12-14 to 1 at the moment. Ed Walker's got a strong hand this week. I noticed that Watnan have acquired her off the previous owner. She ran really nicely in the Guineas, when not looking as though she was as fully tuned up as one or two others, but she beat Precise on the day. And that was only a third race in her career. It was the first run. It was a real baptism of fire, wasn't it? Going from having just 2 runs, first time out to run in the Guineas. I know that's the prep that Connections wanted to choose for her. They had a chance to run her in a prep and they didn't. But I do think there's more improvement to come from her. So I don't think there's a huge amount between the likes of Abashiri, True Love and Pretty Star, and yet Pretty Star, they're going through probably trainer snobbery, 14-1. So she could potentially be another one to stick in some each way. Well, yeah, I mean, but you laugh at it, but there's lots of potential non-runners around. Diamond Necklace runs this weekend. Yeah. Thundering On has obviously entered Venetian Lace. You could go on and on and on all the way down the list. You think, well, there might not necessarily be.
No, I know.
An 8-runner field or more field.
Your each way acca is just suddenly.
I'm going to have to,
Before you do that anti-post,
I'm going to run out of betting slip.
Richard Brown did say that the jersey's a possibility for her as well, because they're worried about Precise.
Okay, fair enough. So I'm glad you put that in. So I'll leave her out.
Okay. Out of the
for the
anti-post
purposes of this broadcast, if she does run, I would probably look to put her in. But she's not going to go in because I don't want to be putting something in that potentially is a non-runner.
Yeah, I think Trainer wants to go Coronation and Wathnam want to go Jersey. Okay. But that jersey could be.
The jersey all of a sudden could look really good. Yeah, we've got Into the Sky in that. We've got Pretty Star, Sabre Strike.
Into
the Secret Advisory, who's massively unlucky in the Irish 2000 Guineas and finished second in the Cheshire last season.
Yeah. So they might well look at that and then go, do you know what? Actually, we're going to go for the Coronation. Anyway.
Could be a better than average jersey, because the jersey's been a real weak race for years, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Not this year.
What's going to happen when you introduce the Commonwealth Cup? as well as St James's Palace.
Yeah.
Taken away from, anyway, that's another matter. Precise for you?
Yeah, she just reminds me of late Victoria, doesn't she? Interrupted prep going into the 1,000 guineas at Newmarket, steps forward markedly and is really impressive in the Irish 1,000 guineas. I'd be with Andy. I'd be surprised if True Love manages to reverse that form. Obviously, True Love does have that Royal Ascot form from obviously the victory last year, but I'm just still not convinced about a mile for her. I thought everything went right for her in the 1,000 guineas at Newmarket, where she raced, how the race was run, and everything. I think dropping back down into it. But if she was mine, I'd be targeting her at the City of York over 7 later in the year. Now that's a Group 1.
It's a funny one, isn't it, with True Love, really, because you look at it, well, if they look at it objectively, Ballard, I think we can't beat Persad. We're just wasting a bullet there. And you think, well, why waste a bullet in that? We're running her in the Commonwealth Cups. You know, she won the Queen Mary last year, for goodness sake, over 5. But then they've got Albert Einstein in there, and that's the big reputation
and Charles
horse.
Darwin. So you've got two potential stallions.
So what do they do with True Love?
Yeah.
It's a difficult one.
Yeah.
She's too good not to run at the meeting, but what race do you run her in?
Yeah.
It's awful having all those good horses. You know,
I know.
What a nightmare for them.
Yeah.
A lot of good horses lining up in the Queen Elizabeth II Jubilee Stakes. It looks a belter. Jolly Star's a 2-1 favourite for the Aussies. Japan's Zatona Rev, who was runner-up last year, 9-2. Comanche Brave, mightily impressive in Ireland. 10, Saja, the French horse, 11-1. Lake Forest, gelded, 12-1. Lugal for Japan, 12s. 14s, Flora Bermuda, overpasses back in there at 14s. Kind of Blue, 16s. And 20s, bar those. What do you like here, Steve?
I like Zatona Rev. I think he's really solid. For one of these international raiders, the fact that they've come back, having finished second and a close second behind Lazat last year, I think he's rock solid. And where last year you were being asked to take 2-1 at this stage, you're now getting, what?
9-2, yeah.
9-2, yeah. So I'd happily back him each way in this because I don't think it's any stronger. I know Jodie Starr has got a big reputation coming over from Australia, but that's hard to then be able to actually weigh up, whereas you know how good Sosono Rev is. After this last year, won the Grade 1 at Japan, finished second behind Kai and Rising, has had the exact same prep this year and seems in the exact same form. And it's whether Jodie Starr turns into Lazat and manages to beat him, but I can't see him out of the 3.
All right. What about you, Andy?
Yeah, I'm going to have to go to the cash point again on the way home, and when I put some each way multiples on, stick another one in my selection box with Zatona Rev.
Yeah, brilliant.
It's hard to see this horse not running well again, for all the reasons Steve's outlined. The other point to raise as well from last year was that he was drawn right up against the stand rail. You know, he had nothing on his left-hand side. He got nothing really to tow him into the race, compared to Lazat, who made all the running over on the far side and was clearly well ahead at halfway. He's then had to quicken by his horses drawn around. I think there's 5 towards the near side, and he's left them for dead. You actually just put your hand over the screen and watch his race this side. He's miles ahead of the rest. So he's run his face off. You know, he's finished second to Casing Rising, who's probably the world's best horse, isn't he?
Yeah.
Or certainly the world's best sprinter. He's rated 130, something ridiculous. He's just unbeatable. So to keep chasing him home time and time again, this is nowhere near the level of that.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of these races where, like, you look at the King Charles, anything can win it over 5, but the proper class comes through in a race like this.
You can ride a race, can't you?
Yeah. The cream usually comes to the top in a race like this. Can't see like a massive price win. I just don't think the home contingent are that good. The only one would be Comanche Brave, who actually ran in the same race behind Zatona Rev and didn't get the clearest of runs. He then went to the Curragh and beat Big Gossie, who's obviously a very good yardstick for those races over the straight 6 at the Curragh, and he was really good that day. So you could definitely involve Comanche Brave in your sort of each way permutations or your forecast permutations. But Zatona Rev is super solid.
Yeah, I agree. I put him up last year for the race. I was gutted that he didn't win, obviously. But I'm going to have an each-way bet, because that's the theme of the show.
It is.
As you've
going that way, sorry.
I'm going to have an each-way bet on Kind of Blue, who barely ran up to his best last year, apart from a couple of races. I think that when he went to France and he was slowly away, and then he came back around in the all-weather. Just the season was a bit of a write-off. Yeah, he ran okay in a couple of the big races and then disappointed again on the slightly wrong side of the track at Ascot in Champion Sprint. But his record overall in these big Group 1 sprints, you know, whether it's Haydock, Newmarket, Ascot, is pretty good. And I thought his run at York was really smart, where he travelled like the best horse in the race. Almonjed beat him, but he was in front too soon. And he prefers a target. You watch all his races, he gets to his horses and he just does enough. And yet he was in the front at York and Almonjed ran him down. And I'm sure, given his trainer, James Fanshawe, the target would have been get him right for Ascot. And he's 16-1, so I thought he was an each way bet. I think he'll run okay. So those are the main races. But as we've alluded to all the way along, there are loads of other. So I'm going to start with you, Andy, and we'll try and keep it relatively brief. But
that's a problem.
If you can keep it relatively concise as to other horses and races during Royal Ascot, that you've got something to look forward to.
Yeah, I'm a big advocate of the 2-year-old race. I love betting in them because, as I said beforehand, there's a lack of information, if you like, over the 2s. A lot of them just had 1/2 runs, so there's going to be huge improvers. So for me, I'm reliant on the speed figures that we keep. And they've usually been a fairly good guide over the years, particularly the ones who've run big numbers. The ones that have looked good on the eye sometimes haven't run big numbers, and they tend to get found out. Very similar to the juveniles and the novices at the Cheltenham Festival, for instance. So the ones who've done half-decent numbers and have looked very impressive and have actually backed it up with a bit of substance on the clock. Alta Regina, when she won at Lingfield the other day, that was very much a wow factor. Clocked an unbelievably good time. She's the best of the 5 furlong sprinters that we've got so far, Philly's wife. So if she runs in the Queen Mary rather than the Albany, because I think the Albany looks like being one of the hottest races of the week, I'd be very, very interested in her. I think Watnam have got an unbelievable bunch of horses because they got Wild Blossom in that as well, who was very impressive at Carlisle. Yeah. And she did a good number, not as good as Alta Regina, but still a very respectable time. The only thing with Wild Blossom, and I'll just point this out as well, there's several horses who are Memarses, Ruler's Pride being another one, Marat being another one. Memars is 0 from 76 at the Royal Meeting, which is a little bit of concern. I don't know why that is. It's out there, and it's just one of those, like I say, vagaries that you can't back up with any facts other than it just happens. I'm sure a horse will book the trend one of these days. So I'll be very interested in Alta Regina. There was a horse of Watnam's.
8-1, by the way, for the Queen Mary. Alta Regina for the with Bet365.
Yeah, there was a horse of Watnam's that won at Hamilton on Monday. James Dore went up to Hamilton to ride it, and it absolutely bolted up, and I can't remember its name. And if it runs in the Coventry, that's the only problem, whether it does, because it's a quick turnaround.
Royal Heritage.
He clocked
16-1 for the Coventry.
He clocked an unbelievable time figure. He'd be quite a way ahead of the rest of the field if he was to run, and he never came off the bridle as well. He looked awesome. My original choice was Superb for that race. Archie Watson's. I backed him at a nice price because he beat O'Gorman of George Scottson. I know that George thinks a hell of a lot of O'Gorman. O'Gorman's won twice since, at Kempton and then at Yarmouth. He's been sold to Hong Kong subsequently. So unfortunately he doesn't go to the Royal Meeting. And then the Sun Goddess in the Albany. Yeah. I backed her prior to her winning at the Curragh, preempting that she would win and win easily, because she was a massive eye catcher first time out at Naas. And now she's favourite, so I think she sets a really good standard in the Albany. But the Albany, to be fair, is shaping up to be one hell of a race. There's been loads of other horses that have come into the mix, but I do think Watnam have bought well. Their breezes are good. I'll be surprised if they don't run amok with their 2-year-olds. But those would be the main ones for regards to 2-year-olds that I've been really taken by.
Obviously, saving your best bet, so hold tight on that. Steve.
Yeah, way in behind Sun Goddess. The race that she won at the Curragh has worked out really well. Ballantina won it last year, finished 3rd in the Albany. Heaven's Gate 2024 won it, finished 3rd in the Albany. Matrika the year before that won it, finished 2nd in the Albany. And you go back to 2016, Brave Anna won it and then won the Albany. So that race is just a brilliant pointer towards winners and placed horses of this. I've actually done a little related double there. I've backed Sun Goddess in the Albany and Carry the Flag in the Norfolk. That was the horse that beat her on debut and then finished 2nd behind Great Barrier Reef in the Marble Hill last time. Over 6 furlongs, looked like he had the favourite beat, but just weakened later on, and they'll drop that back into trip at 5 furlongs for the Norfolk. So a little related double. It's similar kind of to last year with Stard and True Love. Both of them came out of the same maiden and ended up winning both Royal Ascot races, sticking to their own sex. So I've done a little related double between the two of them.
Each way double or win double?
I've done an each way double.
You've done each way double.
I've done an
Good
each
man.
way double.
Good man.
Just for you.
Very sensible.
Just for you. I thought it was really interesting that Ghost Rider's going to go in the Wolferton. Now, this is the horse that cost £2 million, finished third in the Hardwick last year. It does also have that as an option. But the way that the penalty structure works for the Wolferton, he hasn't actually won since September 2023. So he's off level weights with horses. He's top rated off 116. He's obviously moved from Clive Cox to Kevin Philippart de Foy and is going to come here fresh. That's been by design, and he's around 10-1 for the Wolferton. So I thought Ghost Rider was quite interesting in the Wolferton, albeit that does look like a strong race this year. I like Limestone in the Queen's Vase. He won the same listed race at Navan last time that Karma's won before winning this race last year. If you go back and watch it, nothing goes really right. Either is ahead and then gets taken on and then stays on well at the finish. But I thought he showed a really good attitude there. So Limestone I quite liked for the Queen's Vase as well. In the Golden Gates, Princeling has an entry. I just checked for the Britannia, but also the Golden Gates over a mile and two. I'd prefer him if he does go up in trip.
That's the plan.
Yeah. So I really liked him for the Silver Bowl. He ended up finishing fourth. Now, I know Carlisle's quite stiff mile that day, but he was doing all of his best work at the finish. If you go back to the Newmarket race that he finished second in last year, Yazin then has won since. The third, fourth, fifth and sixth have all won since. So that's worked out really well. He's gone up £4 for a 2.5 length defeat, which is never ideal. But I just think going up in trip is going to unlock him. He's got a beautiful pedigree. Fast ground will suit him. So I like Princeling for the Golden Gates. Hampton Court Protection Act is another one that Wathnan have purchased. He's unbeaten in his two starts. The form of his win at Goodwood has worked out well. Pacific Avenue finished second that day and went on to finish third in the Irish 2000 Guineas. So yeah, Protection Act in the Hampton Court. Water to Wine goes for the King Edward. I imagine he's going to be a short price, but there's news today that Benvenuto Cellini might head there, which might mean that you actually get a good price on Water to Wine. But I've been really impressed with what he's done. Andy's already touched on the form boost with Alderman, obviously running really well from that Newbury maiden in behind and finishing fifth in the Derby. And then just lastly, Opportunity has the option of the Copper Horse over a mile and six or the Duke of Edinburgh over a mile and a half. I think he's going to head to the mile and a half, the Duke of Edinburgh. He really caught my eye at Ascot on his reappearance, was caught too far back, stayed on well. The form of that's working out well. Valedictory was in behind, has won since. He then won well at Carlisle, has gone up in the weights, but he looks a really strong stayer. So as long as he's not drawn down the inside and is drawn wide, so James Doyle has options to go forward and ride him prominently, I'd quite like him in the Duke of Edinburgh as well.
Excellent. I'll add a couple. One for Wathnan in the Royal Hunt Cup. That's Archivist, who was with Stouty, then went to Haggis, went up to a mile and a quarter, has actually come back in trip and going to Hamad Al Jahani. Won in Dubai on his third start. Could conceivably have won another race out there. Didn't have the best of luck. Obviously, things like draw, etc., will depend on his ultimate chance. But he's a horse I like, and I think he could be a pattern horse.
Yeah, he definitely is.
In the Ascot Stakes, anyone who backed Reaching High in it last year will be looking for compensation. Again, Willie Mullins in the colours of the King. It's going to be an obvious thing. I think was he 3-1 when I looked last night. He's 5-2 for the Ascot Stakes. Reaching High, so he hasn't run since he was unlucky in the race last year. Never got a run, and I imagine that this has been the plan to come back. And there are, we obviously talked about Sabre Strike going for the. He's a horse I really like, and if he had run in the Commonwealth Cup, I would have given him a shot at the title there. I like in the Ascot, the Wokingham on Saturday. 3 horses who are doubly entered in the Queen Elizabeth and the Wokingham.
I hope you're not going to mention the same one as me.
Hang on, Double Rush, Soldier's Tree, and the other horse is a horse trained in Denmark by Bent Olsen, a horse called Great Wish.
You've got one of them.
Okay, well, Soldier's Tree and Great Wish are massive prices for the race. I'm trying to find what prices they are.
33.
30.
Soldier's Tree.
And Great Wish was, what was he? Sorry.
It's all right. Fine.
Good. Great Wish was 66.
We're barking up the same tree, I think.
Well, yeah. He was 66, and he ran a couple of really, again, top-class races, top-class sprints in Dubai. He was just behind Lugal, who's 12-1 for the the Queen Elizabeth II Jubilee on Saturday, the Japanese horse, and he's only like half a length behind, and he's 66 to 1 for the Commonwealth. I hope they run in the Commonwealth Cup, in the Wokingham. If he does, I think he's going to run all right. And Soldier's Tree, I thought, ran a mighty race behind Almarac at Salisbury,
the Cathedral Snakes.
And he has got some talent. That horse, watching him run, I mean, he's obviously late to the party because he's now 5. Watching him run his races when he was trained in Ireland, he's got loads of speed. I think Ascot would be his course. Obviously, I don't know what they're going to do with Double Rush, but Soldier's Tree and Great Wish are 2 that I'm throwing in the mix. So I presume you're saving something for later, are you?
No, you've touched upon Soldier's Tree when we're going to be rounding it up and talking about best bets of the week. I'm trying to keep a lot of the handicaps back because obviously for my column it's no point tipping horses at A. You don't know the draw, you don't know the prices, and you don't want to sort of reveal your secrets. You want to keep something back
of course,
for you. Which, everyone knows the markets for the Group 1s, they're not going to sort of change. But if you start mentioning too many handicappers, what have you, it kind of spoils the surprise, if you like.
Yes.
So, I'm going to keep a few back, but I definitely want to throw in Soldier's Tree. I've backed him for the Wokingham. I'm hoping that James Owen Connection sees sense to go to the handicap because he would have, I wouldn't say he'd have little chance of beating genuine Group 1 horses, but I think that the wisest option would be to run, against his own division, if you like. But what a massive run that was at Salisbury. I mean, you could not believe the trouble he found, how hard he pulled. He still had so much running to give at the finish. And funny enough, he's a horse that I was asked to do a 10 to follow at the start of the season. And I actually didn't know he'd gone to James Owens because he was with Darren Bunyan, wasn't he, beforehand? Was it Darren? I think it was Darren.
Is it?
No, Tynan. Michael Tynan. Sorry, I beg your pardon. Michael Tynan,
So Ollie Tynan rode him when he won.
That's right. Because he clocked an unbelievable time figure when he won at Dundalk. The fastest time figure that we had all the season long at Dundalk, even including that Group 3 sprint that they have, won by one of Kevin Ryan's. And this was the quickest of the whole lot, and I thought, I've got to put this in my 10 to follow.
And he's actually 20 to 1 for the Wokingham with Bet365. Soldier's Tree.
If he runs there, even withstanding he's going to be close up towards the top of the ratings, he'll take some stopping.
Before we get into our best bets, and what a teaser we've given you for that, just to let you know about Bet365's position payout offer. Go to any horse race that offers the position payout market. Each selection will display a return for finishing first, second, third or fourth, so on. Place your bet, and the higher your selection finishes, the higher your payout, and the usual T's and C's apply. So it's time for our best bets at the Royal meeting. So Andy Holding is our special guest for this, and Andy Holding is going to go first.
Yeah. I'm going to stay loyal to Sabre Strike. He's been a horse I've been sort of invested in for 6 months or so, ever since he won at Redcar. Did all the data on him that day for Victorious, and he just come across as being a bit of a freak. His stride length was the longest stride length of any 2-year-old last season. I think it was 8.64 metres, which was quite incredible. So you look at him, you think, Christ, he should be stretching out to a mile, this lad. Yeah. I know he had a Commonwealth Cup entry, but like I say, you could easily see him winning and running over a mile, given his cadence. The fact that he managed to win first time out over 6 furlongs on quick ground as a 2-year-old suggested he's, like I say, a very good horse in the making. The form of that Redcar race has worked out well. The time figure's exceptional. He then went to Newmarket. Apparently he wasn't quite 100%. And yet he still blew them away with his turn of foot. He's a very, very talented horse, that Sabre Strike. I think the Commonwealth Cup might be a little bit of a bridge too far, over 6. So I think they've done the right thing by running him over 7 in the Jersey. Stiff 7 should be fine. He's a hold-up horse. He's got a good turn of foot. He relaxes. Take a good one to beat him. So he would be my nap of the week. But it's stiff competition because that's looking now a lot more hard than it did perhaps when you're thinking a month ago. You think, well, it's going to be in the Jersey, but there's a few coming in from left field now. But I will stick with him. And another one just to mention as well, if he does run in one of the handicaps, or maybe the Hampton Court Horse called Ifrad, trained by Willie Haggis. He won at Pontefract early in the season, clocked at a sensational time figure. He's got a mark of 90. He's definitely a group horse in the making off that time. But like I say, I don't know the route he'll go down, whether it's handicaps or into a pattern race. But he's one to keep an eye on, Ifrad.
Okay. Oh, I love Sabre Strike as well. Okay, Steve.
I'm going to go fairly simple and go Stard in the St James's Palace Stakes for all the reasons I stated earlier.
Oh, and that each-way treble as well. That's
Of course.
There you go.
Of course.
The solid each-way treble.
And to keep the haggis theme going, I'm going to go for Alabea in the Kensington Palace, which is on the Wednesday. She was very eye-catching. Bear in mind, she was considered a potential classic contender when she won on her only start as a 2-year-old at Yarmouth. Things didn't pan out. She didn't make a comeback till later in the season last year, ran at Sandown, didn't really show much, but she was very eye-catching at Ascot on her reappearance, where the pace in that race, she was held up at the back, the pace at the front held up, and she made up some really good ground late on, with a run very much with an eye to getting her right for Royal Ascot. I think she's already favourite for the race, but she's 7-1 with Bet365, or 7-1 co-favourite actually with Radiant Beauty and Statira. But I think she's got loads of scope off her mark of 90 for that race. So Alabea and the Kensington Palace for me, Stard and St James's Palace for Steve, and Andy going for Sabre Strike in the Jersey Stakes as well, of course, as is Each Way Acca, which is growing by the minute. Have a great Royal Ascot week.
Yeah, looking forward to actually going down. I haven't been for a number of years, but yeah, I shall tow along, particularly for Gold Cup Day. Cheer on, get my red and white silk scarf out for Caballo, and then keep it on for Sabre Strike on Saturday. But I don't think we're going to be needing scarves. I think it's going to be quite a nice warm week next week.
And you're there a couple of days as well?
Yeah, Tuesday, Wednesday. Brilliant. Yeah, I'll be there. Yeah, cannot wait.
And the same for me. I'll be there all week. Cannot wait. And thank you very much for joining us for this week's episode of Racing Weekly, focusing primarily on Royal Ascot and why not. Brought to you by oddschecker in association with Bet365. Thanks to Andy, Steve, you for watching. As always, if you like what you've heard in this or any of our previous episodes, then leave us a kind review on Apple Podcasts or in the comments section on YouTube. George Baker is joining us next week to have a look ahead to the Irish Derby. But for now, from the Racing Weekly team, have a great Royal Ascot. Bye-bye.